Hey Cancer, how's it going? You see anything weird lately? Anything strange? Something that you can't really explain? I don't know, I have one of those weird paranormal vibes. Not in a bad way, but you know how sometimes people see weird things that they can't explain? You have a strange experience. Before I turned on the camera, I was doing a meditation on you, tuning in, and I was swallowed by a frog. I don't know if I was very tiny and got swallowed by a normal-sized frog, or if this was a giant frog, but I kind of just went into its open mouth, and like that was the whole thing. Now, frogs represent like a deep mystery, the sort of mysterious aspects of life. Being swallowed by a frog could mean that you feel like you've been swallowed by a mysterious situation or an inexplicable event, something that's difficult to understand. The frog in Egyptian mythology is also a symbol of like awakening, of spiritual awakening. When Sirius rises before the sun, today this would be like late July, early August, I think. The floods occur in the Nile, which brings fertile nutrients to the farmland, and it's a very auspicious time. It's sort of like the awakening of a new farming season, a new fertile, virile season of life, and the frogs show up and hop around everywhere. So being swallowed by a frog could mean that you are at the beginning stages of like some type of spiritual initiation or initiation into the deeper mysteries of life. And it could mean that, well, usually when we're being initiated, especially when it's like a high level initiation, a spiritual experience or something like that, it's very mysterious and it's very difficult to make sense of some of the things that we experience. And that's okay. Like we experience something the way our consciousness allows us to experience it, right? Like people will see like the Virgin Mary in a vision or something, and is it really the Virgin Mary, or is that just how this deeper phenomenon shows up to that person? Kind of like the way people will see like aliens coming out of a flying saucer that landed on their farmland. Now, is it really a flying saucer from another planet with aliens walking around, or is that just how this phenomena showed up to this person's perceptions because that's what that person is able to perceive? You know what I mean? The phenomenon itself might be something totally different, something completely other than what it appears to be. And when we have like an awakening, sometimes we experience paranormal phenomena or strange dreams, or we see strange people or entities that show up and are gone real quick, and it's difficult for us to make sense of it. And we try to research what we found, and we find little clues here and there. But it can be very overwhelming. It can feel like you were just plunged into the deep end of something, and it's difficult to grasp these sorts of phenomena. And it's just something that we all go through. Well, not all of us, but those of us who experience these things, we go through this period of overwhelming uncertainty or overwhelming sense of ignorance about what's going on. And we can chalk it up to, a temporary bout of minor psychosis or insanity or something like that, and then just forget about the whole thing. Or we can believe that what we saw was literally factual, was literally what it showed up as, and then we join some religion or some cult or start some cult or something like that because we think like it was literally what it showed up as. Or we can take a more agnostic approach and accept that we don't really know what it was, and sort of just keep it with us, just keep the experience with us, and learn what we can, but don't become too attached to any beliefs about it. Just accept that, okay, this experience happened, I saw this or perceived this or had this experience, and it showed up in this way, and I had these feelings about it, and remember it and keep it in your memory and read what you can about it, look up the symbolism of it, but don't, in my opinion, it's a good idea not to attach like literal factual significance to it, because I find paranormal phenomena, in my opinion, is not at all what it appears to be. Some people can look at a paranormal, sometimes you can have multiple witnesses of a single phenomenon and they each see something different. And so like one person will see like a metallic oval-shaped flying saucer with little green men in spacesuits, and the other person standing right next to them will see like a geodesic dome and no aliens at all walking around it, and yet they're there at the same time in the same place, seeing two completely different things. And sometimes there are physical traces left behind after the phenomenon vanishes, and those can be agreed upon because they can be detected with electromagnetic meters and Geiger counters and things like that, or you can just see the vegetation died in that circle where this object landed, or something like that. But my point is that it's confusing, and probably deliberately confusing, when we have these experiences. And the reason I'm talking so much about this strange subject is because the hexagram I pulled for you was the same one I pulled for you last time, except with a different changing line. Hexagram 5, needing, but this time the changing line is the fourth line, it changes to eliminating. And here we have, like when that changing line is at the fourth line, we have this sense of like falling into a ditch and having to accommodate this situation in order to get out of it smoothly. So like, it's basically like, oh, this thing happened, and now you gotta go with it, and you can't really fight against it. You just kind of have to, okay, I fell in a ditch, now I need to walk around this ditch, find an exit somewhere, find an easy slope up so I don't hurt myself. There's a slight sense of danger here. And we have the two elements of cloud and heaven. So cloud over heaven are the two elements that make up this hexagram, which is like an image of raindrops collecting, and it's about to rain. And my meditation of being swallowed by a frog, coupled with this, and this feeling that I need to talk about paranormal stuff, it all came together in the ideas promulgated by an author named Charles Fort. He was a researcher from the late 19th, early 20th century. You may have heard of the Fortean Society. This is a group of people that followed in his footsteps. But anyway, Charles Fort liked to notice all of the things that other people ignore, and he collected them in a book that was titled The Procession of the Damned, right? All the strange phenomena that people see and have reported over many, many decades, centuries even, of strange non-human entities walking around a crowded place, to UFO sightings, to strange poltergeists, and to things like hundreds of thousands of frogs falling out of the sky. These things happen. It's actually happened quite often in throughout our history, is fish and frogs just falling out of the sky. And some people theorize like, oh, there must have been a tornado somewhere that sucked up a bunch of wildlife and put it in the atmosphere and then rained it down. And then like these frogs flew across the atmosphere and then rained down in a city a couple hundred miles away or something like that. I don't know about these theories. No one's ever been able to prove these theories that tornadoes suck up wildlife and that the wildlife can just float through the sky and land hundreds of miles away. But anyway, Charles Fort never really tried to theorize about any of this stuff. He just collected it like a journalist would and just wrote all these different events in these books. So maybe that's a book you want to get into and read. It's full of very, very strange phenomena that people have experienced. And there are things known as anomalies, right? Data that doesn't fit a particular paradigm. And most people ignore anomalies. If we have a scientific law or well-established theory that everybody knows and it's taught to us in school and blah, 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 and we carry on, and then something happens that doesn't fit that theory, that doesn't fit that paradigm, it's called an anomaly. And most scientists and laymen will just ignore anomalies because they don't fit their worldview. And this is, in my mistake, the in my opinion, the biggest mistake a person can make is ignoring anomalies. Because if we look at the history of science, studying anomalies is what leads to breakthroughs and leads to new knowledge and greater understanding. When you ignore anomalies, you don't learn anything new. Anomalies are like the special sauce of life, the special keys to new realizations about reality. Anomalies are the most important thing to study. And when we ignore anomalies because they make us feel uncomfortable, we are doing ourselves a disservice, because we are basically being handed a key to some new perception, some new experience of reality, and saying, no, I don't want it. I'm comfortable in my comfort zone, in my safe space, and this anomaly scares me. It makes me think that my beliefs are wrong, and I don't want to deal with that, so no thank you to the anomaly. So it could be that you've experienced something that is anomalous to your worldview, that doesn't fit, and you've been put in this situation where you can't ignore it. It was just too obvious and too glaring of an anomaly that it wasn't just like data on a spreadsheet that a scientist could ignore. It was something that you experienced that doesn't quite fit the sort of normie worldview. And now it feels like falling into a ditch or being swallowed by a frog or something, where you're just like, this happened. I can't deny that this happened. To deny that it would happen, you'd have to compartmentalize your mind and then forget it. Like the way traumatized victims of something will kind of make a split personality, and then part of their personality goes dark and hides in the shadow forever, and you like literally don't remember what happened. Like some people who experience paranormal phenomena do that, where they kind of have a minor multiple personality get created, and then they hide it from themselves so that they can forget it and just not deal with it. So that's a step backwards that disintegrates our personality when things like that happen. It's important to stay strong and to accept the situation, because accepting the anomalous data, the anomalous experience, accepting that it was real, but also knowing that you might not know what it is very important. Accepting that I don't know what happened. Admitting when we don't know something is very, very important. But not denying that it occurred. And when things like that happened to me in the past, I just had to realize and make a decision that like I will never have beliefs. Like I don't believe anything, you know? Like I'm the king of the skeptics. I'm so skeptical. You know, most people call themselves skeptics, but they religiously believe in modern science. And they call themselves skeptics because they hold everything up to modern science. But they're not real skeptics because they're not skeptical of modern science. Like, I'm the kind of person who's skeptical of absolutely everything. And beliefs just get in the way. Beliefs are just opinions. Beliefs are a corrupting influence on the mind. Because as soon as you have certainty about something, you stop thinking about it. You stop learning about it, and your brain functioning ceases. You essentially die to that subject. It's now lifeless to you because you're certain about it. You either know this is true, or you know this is false, and then you don't have to think about it anymore. You don't have to discuss it. You don't have to research it, and you stop learning. So having beliefs is like a poison. Beliefs are an absolute poison, in my opinion. And everybody in the world has to have an opinion about something or a belief about something, and they expect you to have beliefs too. And if you don't believe in capitalism, then you must believe in socialism, right? Or if you don't believe in God, then you must be an atheist, right? And it's these extremes where if you don't believe in this, then you must believe in its opposite, right? Or if you believe in this, then you must not believe in its opposite. And everyone has to have an opinion about everything that happens. Something happens in the news and everybody is suddenly an expert on it, even though they know nothing about it. And I think you might be running up against this kind of phenomenon right now, where there's just people who expect you to have an opinion about something or a belief about something, or maybe you think you're supposed to know something that you don't know. And that's frustrating you, and you don't know what to do with this. And you're being forced to accommodate this situation. So it's a tough spot to be in, but the thing is, the trick here with the fourth changing line on needing here, needing moves to eliminating, is if you accommodate the situation, you succeed. You get through it. It's like, it's that, oh, what do people call it? Chapel perilous. When you have a strange, inexplicable experience and you realize, oh, reality is not exactly what I thought it was, you enter what's known as chapel perilous. And you either come out a paranoid schizophrenic or an agnostic. Those are pretty much the only two options. Because if you fall into belief and opinion, or the fear that comes up, you come out a paranoid schizophrenic or some, you turn to something that's going to get rid of your fear and paranoia. Like a organized religion, or just like a belief, a dogmatic belief in science or something like that, just so you don't have to deal with this unknown situation anymore. Or you come out like, okay, that was wild and interesting and I don't really understand it. And, entering chapel perilous, or being forced to enter it, because sometimes it spontaneously happens to us, where someone just kind of shoves us into the lobby of chapel perilous, and we're there, and there's no turning back once you're inside. And so that's that, getting swallowed by a frog. And another symbolism of frog in Egyptian mythology is that's a little bit chaotic. It's a little bit crazy, the frog. Even though it's about a spiritual awakening, it's somewhat chaotic. And you kind of, like, at that point, you just have to go with it. And you will get out onto the other side. It's inevitable, as long as you accommodate the situation and understand, like, yeah, this is pretty wild, but here we are. And you just go with it. So we're going to develop this reading for you further and see what we can figure out for you. So I'm going to spin a coin. It's going to focus on one of these aspects of life, and we'll pull some cards about it and see what we can do, because this is an interesting thing. What does Cancer need to know, Oracle? Oh, fell off and upside down. Second try. All right. What does Cancer need to know? Yeah, that is not a surprise to me. So it landed on, I have to show it to you. This symbol here. Yeah. I call it the Spectre. And yes, as you may suspect, I made it look like a flying saucer. My favorite topic. Oh, this is a weird one, Cancer. Okay. So yeah. It could be literally you've been experiencing paranormal phenomena and it's freaking you out. I can relate. I'm like a magnet for that kind of shit. And it's kind of deceptive, paranormal phenomena. Like, I think it's deliberately deceptive. It's deliberately difficult to understand. The phenomenon seems to be engineered in that way. It appears to us in such a way as to be purposefully difficult to understand. And it's also absurd. This paranormal phenomena is usually absurd. When we hear about UFO stories and paranormal stories, the mainstream media and book writers tend to cherry pick certain types of stories, ones that fit their paradigm comfortably, like, 100,000 witnesses saw the Virgin Mary. And then, of course, that winds up in all the Catholic newspapers and everybody celebrates the coming of the Virgin Mary. Mainstream news might talk about aliens coming from other planets, right? Flying saucers from Sirius or something like that. Strange radar anomalies that the military is picking up and things like that, and it fits into their materialistic paradigm of nuts and bolts spacecraft and civilizations on other planets. But the thing is, the vast majority of UFO cases are like, some guy saw like an elf-looking dude with green skin and pointy ears, and he came out of like a silvery spacecraft, asked for a jug of water, made sure there's no salt in the water, mister. And then 15 minutes later, this like freaky little elf guy in his like UFO gives him some freaking pancakes and then flies away. That's actually the majority of UFO encounters, believe it or not. Like, when I say this phenomenon is absurd, take me at the full meaning of the word absurd. It is the weirdest stuff. Like a guy gets abducted, right? He's in this room with clocks all over the walls, and there are no hands on the clocks. And then this little hairy midget dude asks him what time it is. And then he wakes up in a field at like 6 a.m., you know, like freaking 8 hours later. He's out in like a field in the middle of the woods and can barely move because he's got like sleep paralysis. So what the hell? So, like, you know, have an experience like that and then see how you make sense of it. You know, this phenomenon can alter the way time moves in a certain location. It can alter your perceptions of reality. It's a very, very absurd thing when paranormal phenomena occurs to us, and it's very, very difficult to make sense of it. It has a very trickstery vibe to it. It uses cultural programming to show up in ways that we expect it to show up. Like, if you believe in aliens, then you might see spaceships from other planets. If you believe in the Virgin Mary, then it'll show up as a luminescent woman in a robe. You know what I mean? If you believe in the Buddha, it'll show up like a meditating Indian dude, you know? And it's probably none of these things. So the Spectre. The Spectre. It's a veil of mystery. What does Cancer need to know about the Spectre? This top one here. We've got the Queen of Pentacles. So the Queen of Pentacles here. If you can see in the top there, there's like a winged goat or a ram or something kind of flying around up in the sky there. Another thing about this phenomenon is that it is often accompanied by a sulfur smell sometimes. That's often reported with UFO encounters, poltergeists, sightings of ghosts, Bigfoot sightings, chupacabra sightings, Loch Ness Monster and eel horse sightings in the lakes of, you know, in the British Islands and the Irish western lakes there, that when people see these cryptozoological, ufological, and paranormal phenomena, there's oftentimes a sulfuric smell that goes along with it. So there's a link. These things all seem different, right? Like someone who studies UFOs might not at all be interested in studying the Loch Ness Monster because they think the Loch Ness Monster is something for biologists to study, when in fact it might be part of the same phenomenon. And there are these connections with all these multifarious phenomena that someone who studies it all, if you're into the weird stuff and you like to study all of it, UFOs, Bigfoot, ghosts and poltergeists, seances, all that stuff, you start to see patterns. And one of the patterns is the sulfuric smell. Another pattern is bright lights that can cause, what's it called, like a cataract, maybe like some type of gamma radiation or something like that. So when I see like a flying goat, I think of, you know, that medieval depiction of the devil, right? And I associate the sulfur smell with this imagery because it's been associated like that in medieval era. But here with the Queen of Pentacles on the Spectre, this is some real phenomenon that left like material traces. Like, I have a feeling this wasn't just a dream, or if it was a dream, it's been like affecting your waking life. Man, this is a weird fucking reading. If this isn't vibing with you, I'm so sorry. But the Queen of Pentacles, this is a real phenomenon. This is a grounded phenomenon that you really experienced, and there's nothing hallucinatory about it. There might be aspects, psychic aspects to it, where it's like it's taking on an appearance that's not its true form, kind of a thing, like I was saying earlier. But it was real. And it's kind of been laid in your lap. Like, it just happened, maybe spontaneously. Maybe you had no inclination of this sort of stuff before. And it has become like a tangible reality to you, something that cannot be ignored, something that is very solid. And that might be part of the reason why, it has you so shaken or a little overwhelmed, because you just really can't ignore just that stability and surety of the Queen of Pentacles, that material reality of it. Oh man, if this is resonating with you, you have got to tell me what this is about. This is so strange. Why the hell are we talking about this? I mean, this is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. So you've come to the right place if this is resonating with you. I've been studying paranormal phenomena since I was about 5 years old. I know that's really early to get into it. But when you grow up in a house full of the strange magazines and books that my dad used to buy, you'll get exposed early on. Not to mention my earliest memories are of paranormal phenomena. My very earliest memories, my first memories, are of extraordinarily strange things. Like, alchemists, people like Paracelsus, people from the medieval to the Renaissance era would talk about gnomes associated with the earth element, salamanders associated with the fire, undinis or little mermaids associated with water, and sylphs or little fairy lights associated with air. I literally saw these things when I was a little kid. I would watch gnomes. I'm talking tiny bearded men with hats. Like, I'd never seen cartoons or watched TV until I was like 6 or 7. So like, it's not from that. And I used to watch little gnomes walk in and out of rocks, in and out of my wall. When my mother would turn on the stove to cook, I would see little ghost salamanders coming out of the heat waves. Yeah, I would be in a bathtub and see tiny little ghosty mermaids swimming around, like fish ladies in there. And then when I became a teenager and started studying alchemy and medieval philosophy, and I saw like these grown men talking about this stuff, I was like, oh, it's real. I wasn't just a crazy little kid. Grown men are writing about these things. So maybe you want to read some alchemical texts written by some very intelligent grown men, like maybe Paracelsus or John Dee or Johannes Trithemius or Thomas Vaughan, aka Eugenius Philalides, maybe Nicholas of Cusa, maybe, who else? Smart guys, smart grown men. Johann von Goethe, right? One of the fathers of modern science. He was really into this kind of stuff. And that might give you some sense of calm, some sense of surety that you're not losing your mind, that there are extremely well-respected grown adult males who have had paranormal experiences and took it extraordinarily seriously, studied it scientifically, religiously, philosophically, and spiritually, experimented with it, and were very, very comfortable with these sorts of ideas, including people like Francis Bacon, another father of science, and Isaac Newton, another father of science. They all studied paranormal phenomena very, very seriously, and the modern world tends to ignore this fact. So here we have purity. Purity. Yeah, I think this phenomenon or this experience happened to you because of probably your spiritual discipline or your healthy mentality. Here we have like a censer, right? And we have this priest in a robe, over here, with some incense and these feathers, and this is like a ritual offering. This is like a solemn spiritual ritual that this person is performing. And this is one of those daily rituals that's like something that we do for catharsis, for self-awareness training, self-control training, spiritual purification, burning away of karma, all those sorts of the spiritual disciplines that we believe are like the healthy work on yourself type disciplines. And when we do that a lot, or if we just have a pure personality, if our intentions are pure, that's another exercise where we have pure intentions, we act from those pure intentions, we have purity of thought towards other, purity of intentions toward the people we work with or meet. This is like a beautiful thing, and it's a wonderful spiritual practice. And I think people who are pure of heart and pure of mind and have a sufficiently open heart and open mind attract paranormal phenomena to themselves. The whatever creates paranormal phenomena recognizes purity, and it can be like, I don't want to say it's like a reward, because that puts it weirdly, but it's like a consequence of having a pure heart and an open mind, is you see more of reality than other people see. You can tune in to the wider wavelengths. You know, we see, what is it, 0.95% of the light spectrum? Like less than 1% of the visible, or less than 1% of the electromagnetic spectrum is the visible light spectrum that the human eye can see. So 99.05% of the electromagnetic spectrum is invisible to the human senses. But those who have good spiritual discipline or just pure personalities are generally the people who see paranormal phenomena. People who are clouded and who are just kind of normies and just kind of, you know, they go about their lives and maybe they're a little bit selfish or impure and they don't really care and they don't think about higher stuff and they just go to work all day. And not that that's a bad thing. What am I saying? I just mean like people who are distracted by life is what I try to say, and they don't really think about higher things and they just eat, get money, sleep, repeat, and they want to maximize their eating and sleeping and getting money, and so maybe they're, you know, normies, right? They don't see this stuff because they're too distracted. But when you purify your life, these phenomena can start to enter into your life, whether we want them to or not. You know, there are people who just live very pure, simple lives who don't think about this stuff at all, and yet it comes to them. Just ask Midwestern American farmers who seem to be like the biggest target for the UFO phenomenon. They're just going about their day, working the fields, and then suddenly there's space elves giving them pancakes. So perhaps like this could be a good sign, is that you're a grounded, pure person, and this paranormal phenomenon is like, okay, this person can handle this stuff, so I'm going to show up to this person. I want to like knock on their door, like say, hi, we're here, check out this part of reality that you haven't been exposed to yet. Like, happy birthday, here's a gift. Like, check out the wider universe, the larger reality here that you may not be aware of. And it's just gonna, sometimes they just slap us in the face with it, and they think, okay, now's a good time for you to wake up to this stuff. And it has this playful trickster and energy to it a lot of the times, where it comes up as like with a little bit of deceit in it, a little bit of illusion. But it's because it draws from our own minds, it draws from our own cultural programming and conditioning, and appears something that is somewhat grounded and understandable, but also something that is somewhat inexplicable and that we can't understand, that like draws us into learning something new, that it like gives us enough that we can ground the experience and recognize it as something, and then it gives us something strange that we don't understand, so that we're drawn to explore it more and learn more. And we can ground that experience ourselves by being honest about it and pure about it, keeping our minds open about it, keeping our hearts pure and open about it, and not applying our cultural conditioning to it. It may have used our cultural conditioning in order to appear to us, but then we have to recognize it is not that. You know, the map is not the territory. You know, the menu is not the meal. You know what I mean? It's like that kind of idea. And I think you understand that. Like, you're grounded and pure, which is like the perfect person to have a paranormal experience, because you'll take it seriously and you'll have the desire to get to the bottom of it. Man, I don't know who this reading is going to resonate to. Who are you? Like, does this resonate with you? Oh boy. One last thing for you, Cancer. Let's round out this amazing reading. I am in love with this reading. I'm probably going to watch this one just to be like, what was I talking about? One last thing, Oracle, for Cancer. This one, Taurus. The astrological symbol for Taurus and the number 2. Oh, come on. So yeah, Taurus, this is like a grounded, steady energy. Again, this brings me back to the I Ching hexagram of like, slow and steady wins this race. Like, you're in this situation that was plopped into you, that you were plopped into, you know, falling into a ditch is sort of what the hexagram symbolizes. And you just gotta get up, brush yourself off, look for a good way out. Don't go up a dangerous slope out of the ditch. Look for, you know, walk around a little bit, look around, find a good exit here. Find a good way to walk out of this ditch, and don't exert yourself too much. Take your time. Be sure of your footsteps. You know, have that nice, slow, plodding Knight of Pentacles kind of a feel, where you're not rushing to escape this, and you're not looking for a secret magic door to get out, and you're not looking for quick and easy answers. You're not subscribing to quick and easy beliefs about it. That you really just do your best to get to the bottom of it. If you can't, you just admit that you don't know. You know, just think of how to stay grounded and stable during this time. Like, I know when I was younger and I was experiencing a lot of paranormal phenomena, it was extraordinarily difficult for me, because like, there was nobody I could talk to about this stuff. People think you're fucking crazy. And then after a while, you start to think you're crazy, you know? So like, you gotta have things that ground you, you know, just eat a greasy hamburger. If you gotta just get some ground up cow and stuff your face, and just like eat a bowl of ice cream, like lie out in a sunny field. Well, it's winter in the Northern Hemisphere, but you could be watching this at any time, or living in the South. You know, do something grounding while you're experiencing this or dealing with this, and stay balanced and stay close to yourself. You know, just remember your physical body, do something nice for it, pamper yourself, relax, like watch your favorite movie, take time to yourself, because having strange, overwhelming experiences, even if it's not something paranormal, like I know I've been really on that paranormal bent, but these signs indicate it. But if it was just something overwhelming, it can consume your thoughts. It can consume your behavior. Like, all you want to do is study it and get to the bottom of it, and you can't sleep and you can't eat and you just want answers, and it's unhealthy. It can lead to paranoia, mild psychosis, or even severe psychosis if it goes on for too long. It can be very, 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 very bad if you don't find ways to stay grounded. So if you're old enough and mature enough to understand that, then you have a good advantage here. If you're younger, if maybe you're in your 20s or in your teens or something like that, you might not have enough life experience to know that you need to stay grounded at times like this, that you need to just do chill stuff, that you need to take your mind off this stuff like every day. You can't think about it all day, every day. You can think about it every day, but not all day. You know what I mean? You have to take frequent breaks from this type of research, from this type of inquiry, from worrying about it, from thinking about it too much. And you just have to go back to the things that you like doing. If you can, I know a lot of times these overwhelming experiences can suck the joy out of life and suck the joy out of our hobbies and make them seem meaningless, because we apply meaning to everything in our lives. And when we have an overwhelming experience, we're looking for new meaning, and the old meanings evaporate, and then you're just left with the horror of reality of this strange thing we call life, and it can feel meaningless now because old beliefs were just shattered. And so when our old beliefs and paradigms are shattered, and we can't hold our old opinions anymore, we can't hold our worldview anymore, you have to, instead of like losing your mind about it, we can just do the simple things in life that you know you have to do. Be hygienic, take care of the body, exercise, eat, sleep at the right times, you know, focus on our work, on our job that we have. The most simple things that are closest to us, like sometimes we just have to focus on those things, and try not to worry about this overwhelming experience. I know that's easier said than done. Believe me, I get it. But it's extremely important to find those things that will ground you at this time. And take some of the time of your day to study and research and look into this weird stuff or solve this overwhelming problem. But here we have a situation where biding your time is totally cool because you're guaranteed success if you don't rush things. If you just accommodate the situation, like I said earlier, little by little, it begins to make more and more sense. You begin to be able to deal with it better emotionally and psychologically as time goes on. Just step by step, just the slow plodding path of the bull, or the water buffalo, the oxen, however you want to see a Taurus. And it all comes together eventually. Trust me, as someone who has loads of stuff like this in my past, it does all come together eventually, and your life evens out eventually, and you can deal with this stuff and even continue to have these experiences, and then it just becomes like a game after that point. The hardest times are the earliest times. The hardest paranormal experiences are the first few. And then it just becomes part of life after that. So Cancer, this was an extremely weird reading. I have no idea how many of you this is going to resonate with. But for the one or two of you with whom this resonates, I would love to hear about it if you're comfortable. But anyway, my name's been Alex. The Oracle and I are very happy to have served you this evening, and I wish you all the best, and I'll see you next time.